But we can get started, and then people can like come in after breakfast or checking out or whatever. Thank you for joining us, for being there for students when you can't literally be there. The impact of virtual college advising. Specifically, we'll be talking about our work with the Oregon Gear Up program in rural Oregon. But Get Schooled is, you'll learn more, is a national organization. So we work everywhere. I'm Danielle Gunder, Senior Program Manager. I work specifically on all of our educational programs and grants. That's me in front of Mount Rainier. I live in Seattle, but we, like I said, are kind of scattered all about. And this is my lovely colleague, Taylor.
Hi, I'm Taylor Munoz. Let me know if the microphone is even effective. If not, I can totally drop it. I'm a program manager. I've been with Get Schooled for about 7 or so months now. That's an old picture of me at Gasworks Park in Seattle, where I just recently moved back to, but I'm originally from Southern California.
So today we're going to talk about the core components and goals of Get Schooled. We'll tell you more about Get Schooled as an organization. The benefits of a digital college access model. We know a lot of people, everyone had to move digital during the pandemic, but Get Schooled has always been digital. So this is something we've been doing for a long time. And also, hopefully you'll be equipped to utilize components of our organization when you walk out today. So instead of answering in poll everywhere, I would just like to hear, like, what do you feel when you think about advising students or asking your program to advise students through digital resources like text, social media, video? For some history, I am a former high school science teacher at a Title I school in southern Phoenix, Arizona, with no technology. We were extremely broke. So thinking about trying to advise my students with their post-secondary goals through digital advising would freak me out, because I wouldn't know, one, where to start and how to get it to them. How do other people feel?
I prefer the face-to-face.
Yeah.
And then text and social media. It is. I think body language says a lot, and so that's my preference.
I think it's important to meet people where they're at and not assume that they have to do what you want to do and understand what they are and what best fits them. I think there's this old thing of like 20, 30 years ago, we expect students to respect us and show up and do this, and just because that's not the way, it's like the norm, that stubborn person. It's like, this is the way I used to do it. So it's important to meet people where they're at as individuals.
So much Get Schooled language right there. We constantly say, meet students where they're at.
Normal for us. In Tennessee, we started contracting with Signal, I guess, about 6 years ago for texting, and really got on several social media platforms, I guess, about 4 years ago. Again, it may not always be ideal, but it's not a matter of there's one way to connect with students, that you have to use them all.
Also, former teacher, totally comfortable with crickets. I taught chemistry, my students constant crickets. So Get Schooled, I'm gonna tell you a little bit about who we are. I actually started with Get Schooled 6 days before Washington locked down for the pandemic. That was very fun transition time. We are a all-free, all-digital national nonprofit. When I say all free, we're completely grant funded. We don't sell data. We don't require payment by schools, partners, district. We, at this point, have been able to stay completely grant funded, which is really important when helping us kind of do things the way we want to do them. Hello. Don't worry, just come in. And our goal is to help students get to college, find a job, and succeed in both. Taylor will talk more about that, but there's a reason for those 3 pillars. We've served about 1 million young people, and we specifically target ages 16 to 24, but we have never turned a student away. So we do have students that are 14. We have Get Schooled alumni that are now like in graduate programs or getting jobs that still use our information. And we reach all 50 states, but we specifically use our grants to target students that their communities may not have the resources or have access to the resources that they need. So although we reach all 50 states and actually have started seeing a big international audience, we do have what we call hotspots, which is where our grants are. we have this slide that we always have to include, and I was like, well, I told Taylor, everyone in the audience knows this, right? Like, we know what the challenge is. I know what the challenge was. When I was a teacher, we didn't have a college and career counselor, so I just like took it on with no training. But I was 22, and I was like, I just went to college, I can do this. We know there are structural and racial inequities in schools, and our challenge, Get Schooled, is now 11 years old and was seed funded by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and Viacom CBS by 2 Bill and Melinda Gates former grant program managers, because they said that there's a problem here and we're not addressing the root cause. So we want to help students. A lot of what the Gates Foundation was doing was helping adults help students, and they said, no, we want to go directly to students. And they started Get Schooled. Like the 430 students to 1 is the national ratio of students to counselors, and that's just insane. There's no way you could meet with all of those students.
So everything that we do, all of the content that we create across our website and our various social media channels, as well as the personalized support that we offer to students, is based on our 3 core journeys of support, which are getting to college, succeeding in college, and finding a job. And it's important to note that when we say college, we don't necessarily just mean the traditional 4-year university path, because we understand that that doesn't necessarily work for each student. So we try to stay very inclusive with our definition of college. So that could look like trade school, culinary school, apprenticeship programs, etc. And when we say job, we don't mean necessarily like a student's career path after they graduate college. Because we serve so many low-income and first-generation students, we acknowledge that many students need to be working jobs in college and in high school to support themselves and their families. So a lot of our job support is geared towards like entry-level jobs and first jobs.
I love to share that my family is like the perfect example of post-secondary pathways. My oldest brother went Army, second brother went into the workforce, I went to Gonzaga University, and my baby brother went to culinary school. So there are so many options, and everyone in my family is really happy with what they did after high school. Number 2 brother did end up going to community college for 7 years with no degree at the end because he just liked going to school. But you know, at Get Schooled, we have that same feeling that my parents had, that if it's what makes you happy and it's what's going to make you successful, that we will support you and make sure that you persist. Succeeding in college, we really focus on that first year of college for persistence. Again, we don't turn any students away, and you never like age out of Get Schooled, but most of our resources are heavily on that first year and focus on persistence.
So in order to connect with our students and offer them all of our supports, we use a 3-pronged formula for supporting youth, which is taking our meaningful content on our website, which is like quizzes, articles, videos, etc., and combining that with free personalized advice on college success and jobs through our free national text line. And we take those 2 elements and we combine them with powerful social media. Our newest addition to social media is our TikTok account.
Yeah, TikTok. Ooh, that black is not showing up well. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry about that. That's kind of great. So we see in our analytics that over 90% of users to our website are coming from a mobile device. So because of that, we have taken the steps to ensure that our website is mobile friendly and as accessible as possible. In addition to that, all of our content is completely free, ungated, and doesn't require any kind of account to access. We believe that by doing so, we continuously reduce the barriers that students face to accessing the information that they need. And all of the content on our website is pretty youth-friendly, meaning that it's short, to the point, simple, and is written in accessible language that all students can understand.
And you should talk about the Youth Advisory Group.
Yes, so every year, I think last year was our very first one, but
Yeah.
we're putting on our second one this year, our Youth Advisory Group, where we recruit 8 to 10 students from ages 16 to 24 across the country, and we meet with them once a month to get feedback about what we're doing, what they think that we can improve on, or change, or stop doing altogether. So we're in the process of recruiting our Youth Advisory Group now. We're hoping to have our first meeting next month. And our Youth Advisory Group just helps us get smarter and better and more like niche for what students really need right now. So our social media channels are some of the most important ways that we reach and connect with students. Because we are grant funded, we have the ability to try new things, and we have a lot of flexibility. And like I mentioned earlier, with that flexibility, we just recently started a really powerful TikTok account where we post a lot of information about college and job success. We do a lot of campaigns on social media, primarily TikTok and Instagram. And actually right now we're doing a campaign that I'm super excited about, that we're super excited about, called HBCU Homecoming Week. So it's kind of a follow-up to our first HBCU that I think we did in January, February, where we taught students all about HBCUs and the history and the traditions and why they should consider them in their college application journeys. So this is a follow-up to that, but it's diving into more of the traditions of HBCU homecomings, because they typically take place in October. So we're doing a scholarship giveaway, we're posting fun information about bands and the traditions, food, stuff like that, all at HBCU homecomings. In the past, we've done other campaigns like a financial literacy week called Money Talks, a self-care challenge called Self-Love Week, a glow-up challenge that encourage students to get ready for back to school. So we try out different things just to meet students where they're at.
And they all have prizes.
They all have
because
prizes,
we
yes.
know we're not going to get a young person to watch the video all the way through unless they can get a Dunkin' Donuts gift card at the end of it. And that's okay. That's okay. The internal drive is not always there for the young people, and for the people like me, who was just weird 16-year-old, who it is there for, they maybe aren't the ones that need that extra time and attention. But we do. We have great prizes. Right now, Get Schooled is doing a We Belong in College scholarship and giving away $2,500 in a scholarship. We just asked students on social media to share a video with us about a challenge that they faced where they didn't feel like they belonged in college and how they overcame it. It's a 1-minute video, and they're entered to win $2,500, or second prize is $1,000, and I think we're giving away 20 scholarships. A video, no essay, no letter of recommendation. We really try to do things that are inclusive of all students, and not necessarily your top students, your middle, every student. And that you can see that in the types of social media that we're on, because not every student's on TikTok, not every student's on Instagram.
We also share those submissions, People's We Belong in College submissions, with their consent. Of course, we share it to our YouTube because we think that if more students see other people's stories, it'll compel them more to get through their own struggles in college and higher education. So we're available on all of the major social media channels, Twitter, Instagram, etc., under the handle Get Schooled, if you wanted to check us out, especially our HBC week, because we have a lot of really fun stuff going on this week for that.
Social media is also a great,
Do you have an app?
We do not have an app, and we have brought that up, but we're only 11 years old, so there's lots of room for growth, right? What's really great about our social media is a student may not want to give us their email or their phone number, but they can go to Instagram and follow us. And with our educators, I'm gonna, I'll be that person. A lot of students aren't on Facebook anymore. My 18-year-old cousin said that Facebook is for her parents, and I was like, yeah. She's at Washington State right now. But what we post on Instagram, we counterpost on Facebook, and so the educators may get it on Facebook, and then they can see, Get Schooled is hosting this scholarship, Get Schooled is hosting a glow up campaign with, we gave away glow up packages where kids got noise canceling headphones, a lamp, decor, stickers, a succulent, a gift card to Target, because during COVID students were at home, but maybe didn't have the space or the identified area where they could focus and study. So we tried to help them with that. And if you see that, or parents see that, then they can share it with their students. Another thing that's really interesting, I told Taylor I would share, is our TikTok is run by Dawn. Dawn is,
I was gonna ask for the giveaways and the scholarships. Is that specifically your students that are in Get Schooled, or is it any student that follows you guys?
It's any student.
Okay.
Is any student. There are giveaways we do on our text line that obviously you'd have to be opted into our text line to hear about it, or via email where we'd have to have your email to contact you. Yeah.
So
taxpayer scholarships are available to high school students only or undergrad students?
Both. Well, it depends on the scholarship, but we belong in colleges both. We've had students, seniors, tell us why they felt like they didn't belong, but they applied anyway, and and then we've had college students tell us, freshman year sucked. This was really hard, but this is how I persisted. And you can see a lot of examples of the videos of both college and high school students on our YouTube. But TikTok is run by Dawn. Dawn is 23, just graduated college because he looks like our students. There have been TikToks where other people have been on it, like our ED, John. Did you not do so well? Students were like, who is this 45-year-old man? But when Dawn is on them, he does the trends, he uses the music, and they get the information that they need without even really knowing it. And what we find from our educators, that's who I work mostly with, I'll quote Miss Linda McGee. She's at Downtown Magnets High School in LA. She told me, I don't know how to do this tickety talk, but can I share yours? And I said, heck yes, Linda. You can share them on Facebook. You can share them on Instagram. If you're on TikTok and you push the buttons to share, we open it up so you can share them on any platforms. And what she loves about that is she doesn't have to put in the work to make them or learn about them. She can just share them from a source that she knows and trusts. I quote Miss Linda McGee quite often. She's lovely. We also are talking about starting an educator Facebook group where we can teach educators how to best use our social media. Because for a lot of us, I don't use social media for work. And when I was a teacher, I wasn't allowed to connect with my students on social media. It was not allowed. So I used social media in my PowerPoints, and it was a way for me to get them social media without getting them social media, right? So there are lots of best practices, and we share what we think, but we also share what educators tell us, because they're the ones actually doing it.
Oh wait, did you want to share some of the video? Or should we skip through?
No, we can skip it. If at any time, this video, that's Joy. She's our social media manager. She lives in Texas. Again, younger face than Mr. John Bram. Get Schooled is very invested in near-peer or peer-to-peer mentoring. And so a lot of people you see on our social media, like Miss Taylor, are recent college grads. Because it unfortunately, even with my students, when I would tell them something, they'd be like, yeah, okay. But when their friend told them the same thing, it was like, oh, cool. So we do really focus with our youth advisory group and our own staff on peer-to-peer and near-peer mentoring.
So we know that texting is a really powerful platform to reach students because they're always on their phones. So our free national text line is a combination of an AI bot who is constantly learning and getting smarter, as well as real people that respond to students' text. We call them our
Digital text advisors.
digital text advisors.
Call them Ben and Angela.
It's very, very lovely.
That's totally, so I actually, speaking of the Signal Vine, we use AdmitHub, which is now called Mainstay. Some of you may know of them. I think the state of Oregon uses them. The state of Texas uses them. But what's different is Get Schooled has had a text line for 7 years. We work in the state of Texas on a big grant with the government. They just started their text line about 8 months ago. So we actually consult with them on the best way to write text messages. If you've ever been on Twitter, you know there's a character limit. In text there isn't, but there should be. Because a young person, at a certain point, our research shows they just stop reading. We also try to get their first and last name so we can address them. We can say, hey Taylor, this is Danielle at Get Schooled. And this is just for this school, or last school year, the number of new youth subscribed. This number is changing, I have to be honest, as more states and schools create their own text line. But like I said, that's awesome. We just want students to get the information. And if you don't have the budget or the administrative capacity for a text line, we've got you. We're currently working with Long Beach Unified School District. They want a text line, but their district won't approve the cost of it. It's about $5 per student. It's not cheap. They won't approve the cost of it until they prove that it's effective. So we're like, okay, we'll sign you up completely free. Your students can sign up. They text in Long Beach. And we'll show your district how meaningful this can be.
Yeah, we have a bunch of different opt-ins to cater to what students need. So for example, right now, if students opt in with #scholarships, our bot will send them like a list of questions to get to know what they need about scholarships. Same thing with jobs, same thing with hello. So if you wanted to text hello to 335, #hello to 335-577, that's like the intro text, so it can get, it can learn a little bit more about you. And if you wanted to see like what supports we're currently offering, you can say that your graduating year is 2022, so you can see what we're offering for seniors right now.
Another thing we've learned, and we've tried to communicate this with some of the people that we work with, is that the phone number you use for text is super important. So Texas's phone number, or it's ADV, is like it's like a full phone number with an area code. Get Schooled is 335-577. That matters. It is a lot more expensive, but it matters. I just did a college fair in Southern Oregon, and students were like, "What's the area code?" And I was like, "There is none." And they were like, "Oh, sweet." I was like, 335-577. We don't have a counselor text line. Get Schooled specifically writes and does everything for young people. But like Taylor said, if you right now texted in 335-577 and said like #hello, you'd get a response. One thing I do is I put my grad year, I change my grad year every year to the senior class, so I can see what it looks like to seniors. But we don't require anything besides texting in, and they will still get all the information that we can send them. One thing we found interesting during COVID is the number of students texting us went up. So I'm gonna go back because this is a real text conversation during COVID. This student texted that had texted in, and she was like, "I need help." And whenever we see that, a person responds. So we constantly are like going through our incoming texts. And this was David who was texting her back. And this was the bot response during COVID. "I'm here for you and can help you." And she said she was concerned about where to find housing and food. She was getting kicked out of her dorm during COVID. And so we put together a guide. But what happened after this conversation is that David just started talking to her. She just needed someone to talk to. She didn't want to worry her parents. She was new in college because it was COVID and didn't have an advisor yet. She just needed someone. She was like, "I don't know where I'm going to eat." So we were like, we will figure it out. We will help you figure it out. And that's been, I think, the most emotionally meaningful for me, because a lot of my students came to me because they trusted me, and I was the only teacher under 45, but not every student has that. And not having a place to live or a place to eat is like, no 18-year-old should have to go through that. So this is an actual text conversation. And now I have to go back, sorry. You do it. So this is, I just looked at Taylor, she's like, "No, this is your slide." This is just an example of last year and some of our metrics. We are extremely data driven and are constantly looking to improve. So we had over 1 million unique website visits and sent 50,000 text messages, or young people sent us 50,000 text messages. Here's a breakdown of our demographics. I will say, because we're ungated and we don't require students to fill anything out, this is based on our most engaged schools and students and communities. Because when we talk to funders, like the Gates Foundation, and they don't ask for this question because they know we don't ask students. Because if we ask students like, "Hey, what's your race?" a lot are not gonna answer, and that's okay. We do impact surveys constantly via text and email where we send like 1 or 2 questions, and it helps us continuously improve. But one thing we did notice, we have a partnership with the National Urban League, and they were really disappointed in our low number of Black students that we were serving. So we were like, okay, let's do something about it. And we worked on it together. And we specifically did a needs assessment and targeted some of their affiliate sites, although we are open to all their affiliate sites, so that we could help them help their students. And just short of half of our students are first generation. Are there any questions about Get Schooled? So it's a lot of, yeah.
I was just trying the chatbot, which is super cool. And it asks like if you're part of one of the partner, areas, or if you're from somewhere else. And I responded that I was in Dreamer and that I was interested in FAFSA. And I just wonder like how personalized those responses can be. Like if a student says like I'm FAFSA or I'm Dreamer, like how specialized can the support get? And then especially like in a state like Washington where we have state financial aid, or is that something where Washington would need to partner with you guys to get that more personalized response?
That's a great question. So we can make the responses as personalized as we want because we write everything that you see coming through in Mainstay. Mainstay will write it for you if you pay for that service, and we were like, no, like we've been doing this for a long time. So we write all of those text responses, but like I said, you can always text like follow up or I need help, and a person will respond to you, and that's obviously the most personalized you're gonna get is a person. In terms of state-specific or geo-specific information, we do that through our grant work, but we do also have unfunded partners like Long Beach Unified, where that's not a funded partnership, but we're starting to set up a Long Beach text line where we can have California, we can send stuff about the UC system, Cal Promise grants. In Texas, we do that. In Oregon, I'm going to talk about, we do that. So in Washington, I know there's been conversations with WASAC.
We need it. It would be so good.
Yes, right? Well, and you have states like Oregon that has the ORSA, and Texas has the TASFA. And we can write that and send that. And I think I'm in the way of his camera. Okay. I'm a walker. And so that is really important. And we can, due to the flexibility and nature of Get Schooled, if a partner tells us like, hey, we want this piece of content and it's geo-specific, we can write it. The one, total transparency here, scope of work is we are only 14 people. So we can't have geo-specific information and a text line for every community in the US because we are national. So it is based on partnership and requests, but that's not necessarily funded. National Urban League is an unfunded partnership. We just work with them. They asked, they emailed me one day, and I was like, heck yes, let's do this. Texas is funded. It just kind of depends on the needs and the requests of the partner and our bandwidth at the time.
Well, and on our website as well, we have a lot of supports for like DACA and undocumented students. We have a very extensive list of like scholarships for like dreamers. We have practical supports like community support, food, shelter for undocumented students as well. And we've had before students text in, like for our job fair, we had a job fair in June, and a lot of students texted in like, oh, how do I get a job? I don't have a social security number. So when we see stuff like that pop up on our text line, like Danielle said, we flag it and we have a student respond because that is super sensitive information that they're sharing via text. So we try to be very delicate about them. And there's been times where I've personally followed up with students after like our text conversation. I'll get their email and email them stuff just to make sure that their information is like safe.
And all of our text responders are NCAN trained and go through a privacy protocol and are contracted employees. So it's not like a random, like, oh, we just found this student and they're gonna respond to you. They're all part of our program and have been trained and have very specific protocol, especially for mental health needs. We have a very specific, I am a former healthcare, I worked in healthcare, so I was very adamant that we had like a protocol for any sort of like suicide or self-harm, because that does come up in a text line. When you are removed from a human being face to face, it is a lot easier to be honest with yourself and with that person. I saw another hand.
I also did the opt-in,
Mm-hmm.
and it asked, my counselor asked me if I had any questions, and I just said, I tried to answer the way I thought a student might, so I just said scholarship. So nothing back.
It'll come back. I
Yeah,
promise.
that's what I was wondering,
Yeah.
and then I texted hello, so I was just wondering like, yeah, what's,
I don't know what the,
how do you teach students somewhere on your platform like tips for how to get responses, or do you have a routine for when David will come back around for me?
Yeah, it's tricky because our advisors only respond like during business hours. So sometimes when a student asks for like specific help, they will have to wait to get a response. until one of our advisors is online.
Unless the bot responds, but I don't know what the time
It,
delay
it can
is.
be either like instantaneous or sometimes it takes a few minutes. It really just depends. But for the most part, when students text in, like there's a very specific path set up. Like I said, for scholarships, like if they text in #scholarships, we have a bunch of different responses based on what their response is.
Right.
We're also currently working with Mainstay to remove the hashtag requirement. Because if a student texts scholarships, they'll eventually get what they need, but that's a techie platform issue. Then that being said, like I was just at this Oregon College Fair, and when I told the students text #Oregon, they were all like, oh yeah, like that's like so normal for them. So that didn't seem to be an issue, but for me or my mother, who was like, why do I have to text a £? I was like, oh, Ma. Because we test it all. We're all signed up for our text line in different ways so that we can see. She would be so mad at me right now. And I'll talk a little more about our text line when I talk about our work in Oregon, because that is a state-specific text line. So, and also love just like raise your hand, ask questions, or don't raise your hand, just ask questions. Like I don't mind. So Get Schooled connected with Oregon Gear Up has a specific program called Oregon Goes to College. And we partnered with them and we applied for a grant together. It's in Get Schooled's name, but we knew we'd be partnering with them from the Meyer Foundation. So Fred Meyer, they have Meyer Memorial Trust Foundation. And we were granted that goal for 2 years. I will say during COVID, getting a multi-year grant was like mind-blowing because everyone's been one-year grants during COVID. And our goals directly supported college readiness among Meyer's priority population. And what that was for this grant was rural students. This is a very personal, like big personal passion of mine in rural America. So we work in partnership with the Oregon Goes to College, and together we've created this network of educators, schools, and communities in rural Oregon and beyond. We don't turn anyone away. And we get Schooled resources and supports, all digital, but also have created it is really cold in here, thank you. Have also created Oregon-specific content. No, you don't have to, it's actually, I'm moving a lot. I'm always gonna turn it down. Oregon-specific content, Oregon-specific deadlines. Oregon is a first come, first serve FAFSA ORSA state, so we can talk about that with young people. And our aim is to bring college access resources to students in Oregon. What I hear from the educators I work with in rural Oregon is, I am the finance teacher. My mic fell down. I am the finance teacher, I am the math teacher, I am the track coach, and I'm the college counselor. I need help, right? I can't meet with every student. I just can't, I set up meetings, they don't show up. How do I get them information? I send them emails, they're not looking at their emails. Get Schooled does email students if they set up a profile with us, but we're not really talking about that because we all email, and sometimes that's not the best way to reach young people. So we were like, all right, let's do this. Let's work together. This is our one-pager. I didn't expect you to be able to read this, but it's just an example of what we were providing to the state of Oregon, specifically rural Oregon youth. We have digital college and job resource packages. They're organized by time of year instead of topic. They are also organized by topic on our website, so you can go and see all of our FAFSA. But what we did in this one is we organized it by October. This is what you need to do, because you don't need to do just FAFSA in October or ORSA. You need to write your college essay. You need to get letters of recommendation. You need to finish wherever you are building your college list. You need to decide if you want to transfer from that 2-year community college or stay. So there's a lot going on, and instead of saying, okay, here's the one thing you need to do, oh wait, you also need to do all of these, we organized it by time of year. We also have personalized text support, so our students in Oregon can text #Oregon, and it puts them in that pathway that will send them Oregon-specific deadlines, reminders. We don't wait for students to text us. We'll say, hey, it's October 1st, you know what that means. Get that money, like literally with money signs. Yeah. And we also have social media. So, it's dark. Our social media is geo-targeted. So we do advertisements. Like right now, we're doing a free college essay review campaign. Get Schooled will review college essays, college scholarship essays, and actually resumes for free for any student as many essays that they want. And in Oregon, we're doing geo-specific, like geo-targeted advertisements on Instagram and Spotify, offering this, and any student in Oregon that submits their essay for review gets a $5 Dutch Bros gift card because we've partnered with Dutch Bros, who I'm not drinking right now, and they would be very upset with me. We also do really short, compelling videos on social media, so not just TikTok, but also Instagram, to walk them through. They don't realize they're being walked through an activity, right? So like how to ask for a letter of recommendation. Like who do you ask? How do you ask? You just, hey, can you write this? Like, you know, like how do you do that? And what do you do after? You write them a thank you note. You thank you for the thank. So we're not just teaching them like how to get the letter of recommendation, but we're also teaching them how to ask for help, how to connect with a potential advisor or mentor, and how to be polite. We've had 30 rural Oregon high schools sign up for this campaign, as small as like, I think North Douglas High School in Drain, Oregon has like 130 students, and as big as like 3,400. Like I said, we don't turn anyone away, so we do have schools in like the Portland area that have signed up, and tens of thousands of Oregon young people have already used our digital resources. I was just at a college fair in Southern Oregon, and I met with about 1,000 students in 2 hours, and it was and there was only one person allowed per COVID. That was a lot. It was a lot. But this is North Douglas High School in Drain, Oregon. Stephanie, who works here, like I said, she has like 12 hats, right? She needs as much help as she can get, and our job is not to replace her, but it's to support her. Yeah.
When you partner with schools or programs like this, are there any kind of back of the house reporting functions or anything like that?
Yes, so it depends on the grant or the partnership need. So in Oregon, we do have to report to the Meyer Foundation for our grant, obviously, but we set very clear expectations when we submit our proposal that we are ungated. So what we do in this is our goals for this grant were that we would partner with approximately 60 schools. That was based on the number of rural high schools in Oregon, and that 10% of seniors at those 60 schools would have an essay reviewed, and that 30% of students in the state of Oregon would engage with our social media text line or sign up for a profile, and that we would see an increase in FAFSA completion at those partner schools of 3%. We don't have access to that data, so our partnership with Oregon Gear Up is like vital. And Oregon also has like a FAFSA challenge that they're doing, Oregon Gear Up. So we, instead of creating this like FAFSA challenge, we've just supported what they're doing. And then we're doing an Oregon College challenge, and they support this for us. So there's just great back and forth. But yes, we do have reporting. Our reporting in Texas is pretty detailed, but we also in that are working with the Texas government, so we have access to a lot more data. As a small organization, we don't have access to much, so we really rely on our partners for that. And I've learned a lot about MOUs in the last 2 years.
So, like in the instance of Oregon, will they know which one of their students participate in different things that services you all provide?
Yes and no. So we, if a student texts us in, we ask them to tell us what school they're at, but we don't know their name. And we don't have an MOU in Texas or in Oregon, so we don't have to give them phone numbers and emails. But in Detroit, we did. So when students in Detroit would sign up for our profile with an email or sign up for our text line with a phone number, we then reported that information back to DCAN. We worked with Detroit College Access Network, and then they could figure out what students those were. But again, we're ungated. So what's interesting when we report that back, like in Texas, I can say, oh, we have 50,000 Texas students that are signed up, but we've had 1 million page views. So there's way more, right, than that. And that's, the funders so far have loved that. But it does change who you work with for funding, because some people need really specific information that we just can't provide. And we could if we changed our structure, But our structure is ungated for a reason. It's worked for us for 11 years, so we'll see. We are running an Oregon College Challenge. Get Schooled used to do these, like these big, like school-to-school friendly competitions. And the goal here for us is really just to help young people in the college access. For this, it's college access journey. We're hoping to increase FAFSA completion rates, encourage students to submit an essay, help them with that, encourage them to sign up for our text line. And then we also, through all of this, provide school educators and administrators with free resources. So we not only send an email to the student about the challenge, but we also send it to the educator who then can use it in their curriculum. For every activity that the student does, the school gets a point, and every point is $1. And at the end of the challenge, however many points you have, up to 750 for this challenge is how much your grant is. We've done $1,000 grants. We've done it depends on the funding. So Oregon is 750. But if your school only has like 236 points at the end of the challenge, you still get a $236 grant. We also give away things to the students every week. So we send an activity like, hey, submit your essay for review. Every student that does it gets a free Dutch Bros gift card that week. If an educator has 75% of their class text us, we'll send them like a $100 Target gift card as a thank you. I spent way too much money in my own classroom. $100 Target gift card is like so awesome. And this is just easy. It's all digital. It's all on text. It's all on social media. None of it for us is in person. So we would love, if you guys want to, but we can also, I'm like super flexible this morning. We would love to like break people up into small groups because as you heard, I've already heard in some of the questions, like what a partnership looks like is super different. Depending on who you are, how big you are. We partner with individual schools like Downtown Magnets and LA Unified. We also partner with the state of Texas. So, it's very different. The data in that is very different. What we offer is very different. But I would love to break out. And you can choose what you want to go to. So we can have a group on partnerships. Like, how would my program partner with Get Schooled? What would that partnership look like? What would I need? We can also, I love the practices group because we can send you all the digital resources you want, or you can have students like have our social media. You can share our social media, but how do you get students to actually use them? $1 million question. How do we strengthen or streamline communication? Like how can we do that for you? How can you do that in a partner? Like whatever that looks like. And then what would you need to implement Get Schooled in your curriculum, in your classroom, in your school, in your community? I do want to give a caveat. When you do this, you have all overseer approval and no budget, like no budget restrictions. Because a lot of times when I think about like, oh, this is what I need, but we don't have the budget for it, it creates this just like negative feeling of like, I really want to do this, but I can't do it. But just like think big. And also part of this small group is like to share best practices with each other. So maybe someone comes in and says, I can't get students to open my freaking emails. I need help. And this person's like, oh, I had that problem. This is what I did. My subject lines were like vital. You have to write the best subject lines, right? So it's not just about Get Schooled and what we can offer you, but I love conversation amongst people to share. So we can do partnership in that corner, practices up here, communication over here, and implementation back there, if you want, for like 10 minutes. Do people want to move? What group do you want to be in? Everyone can just go around you. Oh, you're fine. So go ahead and get up and move to whatever group, like partnership, practices, communication, implementation. Oh, and if you work with someone who's here, try to go to a different group. Like, make new friends.